Happy Thursday to you. Hope you're doing absolutely great today. Today, I want to pick up in this candidates document that we have been following for the last couple days. And today we are on the section about the levels of government. It's really important for you as a resident to know where the mandate and responsibility of one government ends and another begins, and who's responsible for what. Now, I know if you go down to the Garceland Civic Center, the municipal offices there, right on the window, and if you go to the website, the St. Stephen Municipal District website, right there, they want to make it clear what the municipality is responsible for and what it is not responsible for as well. Now, sometimes this kind of thing comes down to a lot of passing the buck. We do see that. I listened to a great podcast called Cross Border Network, Municipal Affairs, Chris Brown, shout out again. But as I listened to what province, this is Saskatchewan, whether it's Saskatchewan or Alberta or BC, wherever, you're seeing a lot of municipalities having to wrestle with this fact of residents, when they are unhappy with how things are going, they immediately contact, for example, their counselor. That feels like the most immediate person you can reach out to. You go to a municipal council meeting and talk to the mayor or the council and say, I'm really not happy with this thing that's happening. And the question needs to be then, is that a municipal responsibility? Now, we can unite our voices and lobby other levels of government. Like I say, we don't want this to turn into well, it's not my responsibility, there's nothing we can do. I think there's nothing more frustrating for residents than, well, there's nothing we can do there. There's nothing. I believe there's always something we can do. At the very least, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right, as we say. So that's very, very important to remember, that even if a certain level of government it's not technically within their purview, we are seeing how a lot of municipalities are having to step up and fill the gaps that the next level of government, for example, if they're not funding something well or not bringing the services, sometimes the municipality, they have a choice to make. We have a choice to make. Do we do nothing and demand the provincial government to step in and fulfill their responsibility and wait and wait and wait? Or is it such an acute issue that we do need to step up and do something? I have talked about how, for example, well, we'll go through this, but the medical health, that is definitely a provincial mandate, and the federal government transfers money from federal taxes to the provinces to administer health care. But what happens when a community like ours, a rural community, can't get doctors to actually move here? Well, you need physical doctors here to provide the health care. And if the province, whether they're funding it well or not funding it well, that could be an issue. That could be neither here nor there. If you don't have people, if we have a hospital, but nobody will move here to be nurses or doctors or that kind of thing, we just don't have the people here, well, then that puts the hospital at risk. That puts the healthcare at risk. And here in St. Stephen, we've been promised a collaborative healthcare clinic in the mall, just when you come into town, and that's definitely a provincial project that we want to see come in. But at the end of the day, the municipality sometimes needs to be a part of moving things along. And frankly, we are seeing that with, I would say, homelessness supports, wraparound supports, where it's not up to the municipality to take care of people solving who are struggling with addiction issues, because that's a health issue. Social development is a provincial thing. So that is an example of the municipality can just do nothing or step up and make it easier for the province sometimes to step in. I know the province likes to see sometimes completed proposals and plans, and the municipality can definitely be a part of that. So I'm saying all that to say we can always do something even when one mandate ends and another begins. But I want to go through, I have this on my screen here, this page, which is a very helpful infographic of what the municipality does versus what the province does and what the federal government does. So you'll see this kind of graphic, again, like I said, right on the website of the municipal district, right on the window when you go to the offices, because sometimes we're not clear on who we need to call. Sometimes you need to call your MLA and take issue with the provincial level of government. Sometimes it's a federal level of government, in which case you talk to your MP. But the municipal government, again, is so... it touches your life in such a tangible way. When you wake up in the morning and turn on the tap to boil your kettle, if the water doesn't come out or if the water is brown, that is a municipal issue. You step outside, you walk to the end of your driveway, the street's crumbling. That's like if you're in the urban ward, then that is the municipality. If you're in the rural ward, then that is a provincial highway. But that's the kind of stuff I want to unpack here really briefly today, because this could be hours of a series. So let me talk first about, I think we'll start with the provincial and the federal, because I want to talk. When I was running for MLA, I heard a lot of things at the door that, as I was hoping to be your MLA, in this realm, a lot of people would talk to me about problems that were in the municipal realm. Well, now that I'm running for mayor, this is the municipal realm, right? There are 3 levels of government: your municipality, the province, and then, of course, the federal government, the government of Canada. So the government of Canada, let's start real big, is responsible for your federal taxes, right? When you file your income taxes, that is federal. Immigration and citizenship. Interestingly, there's reports of how Canada, the population shrank for the first time since Confederation this past year. That was because of federal decisions around residency and immigration. The federal court, Supreme Court, these are federal laws. Criminal law is largely the federal government is largely responsible for that. People do want to see reforms. There is, this sense of catch and release, repeat offenders, violent offenders on the street. The RCMP are not sufficiently detaining people. Well, some of that is provincial, but some of that, of course, is federal criminal code. And so the municipality sometimes feels stuck in the middle. The municipality is not responsible for questions of criminal justice, right? So that's the federal government. Defense and national security, of course, military, that kind of thing. The border, which we're very familiar with, that is that's a federal issue. Fisheries and oceans, DFO, they're a huge presence in our communities. That's federal, of course. Monetary and banking system, great. Legal tender, that's definitely the federal government. Social safety net, employment insurance, things like that, that is the federal government. And air and rail transportation is a federal domain as well. Okay, so that's the federal government. Now, a little closer to home, New Brunswick, the budget came out yesterday, for example, and now we are seeing how, I'm following it closely. I was looking at UMNB's website. They did issue a statement. We're looking for more details on exactly what the provincial budget means for municipalities, because the provincial budget, they often, millions of dollars they'll set aside for infrastructure, things that are falling apart. They fund municipalities. And so that's very important. There's always that shortfall of what a municipality collects. There's usually a gap between how much money the municipality collects, in our case, $14.9 million to do all the things, whether that's improve the roads and pay the staff and keep the facilities up. There's usually a funding gap that the province is dependent on. We depend on the province to fill. And so when you have a budget like yesterday, you want to see exactly what's going to be done and how that affects the municipality positively or negatively. So now let's get into provincial issues. So education matters, and you'll see this yesterday, like funding or not funding universities, the environment, so environmental protections, money towards conservation, or the opposite. You'll have the healthcare, like we said, but as we've seen, municipalities all across Canada are needing to incentivize, put money into healthcare. And as we've said, like whether it's getting doctors here or insisting that people who suffer from mental health and addiction issues, mental health and addictions, that's a provincial matter, but we see it touches our everyday life when you have people who need help, who are in addiction, who are in states of lack of mental health. If they're not getting the supports they need, that impacts all of us as we go about our daily lives in the municipality. Social services, that's another example. Homelessness is a very big issue here in St. Stephen, and we need social development. There is an event this Tuesday. If you're seeing this before the 24th, I encourage you to go to that. because there will be provincial decision makers here. The minister is coming, and that's where we want to see increased social services in our community. Labor laws and standards, justice, again, a lot of the things that we are not happy with in terms of sufficiently detaining, keeping off the street offenders, whether it's robbery or violent assaults or things like that. A lot of these folks are back on the street. Well, again, that's the criminal justice system. Those are codes that the courts and the justices are responsible for. So that's a case of, email your local MP or your MLA if we want to see movement around that. Provincial highways, like I say, in the rural district, Ward 1, they are provincial highways, which is why out there in the rural ward, if you're watching from a rural area, you pay 56 cents to the municipality in your mill rate, but then 41 cents on top of that goes to the provincial DTI, the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, right, for your highways. Assessment and taxation. The province is responsible when they send you that assessment, say, here's what we deem your property to be worth. Wow, the sun just came out and now the lighting is quite bizarre. I didn't close my curtain. So you get that assessment, and that's determined by the province. The province is working on tax assessment reform right now, but again, that's a provincial level. And then you have natural resources and energy, NB Power, that kind of thing, rising energy rates, that's provincial. So now that you've got a sense of those, what does the municipality oversee? Really quickly here, because I'm running out of time, water and sewer services, like I say, you turn on your tap, aging infrastructure, pipes, lift station, sewers, that's all the municipality. That's what we pay into to maintain and repair these services. Waste collection, the municipality contracts out for waste collection. We pay into the Southwest Service Commission, their landfill site that we all share with other municipalities, right? We've talked about that when we discussed the Service Commission and how that works and why we pay into that collective to bring down costs and share those services and that infrastructure. Animal control, whether it's agricultural, whether it's pets, whether it's stray animals, whether it's how many animals you can have on your property, that kind of thing, for farming or for agriculture, that is the purview of the municipality for zoning and land use and things like that. And here we go, land use and planning and building permits. That is up to the municipality. You go to the local office, whether you are, doing a renovation, whether you are building, whether you need specific zoning or a variance on that. And I've talked about how the Service Commission, we pay into and share the planning office there. That is a service that we pay for in our budget to take advantage of the planning experts who work on this full-time every day. The local roads, so again, in the urban ward, that is the responsibility of the municipality. And I made a video about the capital plan, specific roads that are planned to be paved, and how many hundreds of thousands of dollars each of those. The municipality has made a $5 million investment, borrowing $5 million to spread out over a certain number of years to start improving the roads. Fire protection, whether that's fire fighting or whether that's fire codes, that is the responsibility of the municipality. Recreation, so the parks, the Garcelon Civic Center, facilities for sports, things like that, that is something we pay to create and maintain as a municipality. Police services, so we pay, this is the largest share of the, over $2 million to the RCMP for policing services, and that's the municipality is paying for that. Public transportation, with the Southwest Service Commission, part of their purview, we pay into that for Charlotte County Dial-A-Ride. We share that with other municipalities. And, in a community like ours that's rural and larger, there's always a desire to see more public transportation, but of course it costs money. And right now the solution for that is Charlotte County Dial-A-Ride that we do share in terms of funding with other municipalities and toward the Service Commission. And finally, property tax rate. So once your assessment is done by the province, you get that bill. As I mentioned to you, the municipality determines how that is shared. Some municipalities, it's the same across the board, whether you're out in a rural area or whether you're right downtown using the sewer, the water, the sidewalks. St. Stephen has determined to do it differently, a little bit more equitably, some would say, where if you're in the rural ward, you pay $1.56 per mil of your assessment value. And in the urban ward, you pay 56 cents per mil of your assessment, per $100 of your assessment value, and then you pay 41 cents for the provincial roads. Hopefully that was helpful in terms of where one begins, one ends. I'm sure we'll talk more about how, like I say, it's not necessarily like the municipality just can't say, well, you know, social services are responsible for the homeless situation, so we're not going to do anything. We can lobby. We can use, as a member of the Union Municipality of New Brunswick, we can lobby. We need, as a mayor, I will be definitely, one of my commitments here is to make sure we have provincial services that we need. That is absolutely essential. It's on this side. And the mayor needs to be a strong voice for the municipality along with their council saying, hey, provincial government, you are responsible for healthcare. You are responsible for social development. You are responsible for mental health and addictions, that kind of thing. But sometimes the municipality also needs to take action to catalyze things and move them along. So there is a sense of, I would not say shared responsibility necessarily, especially if, you know, as I said, it's the responsibility, the mandate of the province to oversee these things. But the municipality also needs to take responsibility for advocating for itself and making things easier for the province to come in and provide the services and infrastructure they're responsible for. All right, I'm going to head out here. That was a longer video, but this is a larger topic. BuildUpStStephen.ca, that's where you can find out more about me. Have a great rest of your day. We'll come back tomorrow here. Take care of yourself and each other, your neighbor, and let's build up St. Stephen together. Cheers.